It's here, the big one, the best good news stories of 2024, and what a wild year it's been. If you're new here, I'm Sam and I make videos showing good news and solutions to some of the world's biggest problems, and I make monthly roundups of positive stories that you might have missed. And that's because this year, the average person may have spent 6 to 7 days doom scrolling, so I want to balance that out a little bit and show you there are reasons to feel hopeful. If you've been here before, thank you so much, my friend. And if you've been enjoying these good news roundups, tap that like button and I'll keep them coming in 2025 too. I've also asked a few friends for their favourite good news stories of 2024, so keep an eye for who pops up in this video. But let's get into it. Here's some good news from 2024 that you might have missed. 2024 started with news that after years of decline, elephant populations in much of southern Africa had stabilised and even begun to recover, thanks to new conservation strategies like wildlife corridors that link protected areas together and provide safe passages for animals. And a national park in Republic of Congo even celebrated their first year without any elephant poaching. And groundbreaking research from the US Department of Energy found that when you combine solar farms with native wildflowers, it can triple insect numbers on that land in 5 years. And one of the awesome things I came across in January was the Akshar school in Assam, India, that lets the students pay the school fees using plastic waste instead of money. It was created by Mizan and Parmita, who wanted to find a creative way to stop the local village's toxic bonfires of plastic waste that were endangering their students' health. Each week, the students must bring over 25 items of plastic from their homes or picked from the streets, and they learn how to reuse this waste in a bunch of creative ways. How awesome's that? Now onto February, and we'll start with some wins for our ocean. 9 countries united to protect endangered river dolphins around the world by signing the Global Declaration for River Dolphins. Chile and Palau became the first countries to ratify the High Seas Treaty, which is an international commitment to protect our oceans beyond the borders of any country. The high seas is an area of ocean roughly 40 miles or more from the nearest country. It makes up half the planet's surface, and before this treaty, only 1% of it was protected. There was some big news for clean energy in Feb, as scientists at the UK's Jet Laboratory set a new nuclear fusion world record, generating 69 megajoules in 5 seconds. Fusion energy has the potential to revolutionise the way we power our world, producing vast amounts of energy with no carbon emissions and minimal waste. While still far from commercial use, this milestone tripled 1997 results, and in fact, just last month, it was announced that Tokamak Energy, a UK-based nuclear fusion startup, secured $125 million to develop its distinctive egg-shaped reactor design, which could bring us one step closer to unlocking clean, limitless energy. Countries also started cracking down on cosmetic companies in February, as the EU drafted a law to make cosmetics companies pay for their pollution, stating that under the polluter pays principle, they'll have to cover 80% of the cost of cleaning micropollutants from waterways. And New Zealand became one of the first countries to ban forever chemicals in all cosmetic products too. And it wasn't just countries fighting against pollution, as scientists from Nanyang Technological University in Singapore developed an artificial worm gut that can break down plastics. These superworms can digest plastic thanks to their gut bacteria, and it offers a nature-based solution to tackle the global plastic problem. And an innovator from Ireland, Fionn Ferreira, created a way of removing microplastics from water using magnets. By simply adding a magnetic liquid known as ferrofluid into water, it binds to the tiny microplastic particles, which can then be drawn out using a magnet. It removes up to 85% of microplastics in a single go, and the process is still improving. Before we get into March, here's a good news story from my friend Nomzamo.
Hey Sam, it's Nomzamo here. My favorite story of 2024 was seeing the Earthshot Prize come to the African continent and make an incredible impact. But most importantly, seeing young people from around the world be a part of the inaugural youth program as part of the Earthshot and making such incredible impact and also change. So that's me.
We marched into March with news that Pakistan had tripled their mangrove forests over the last 30 years. These coastal superheroes not only provide homes for wildlife, but also form a crucial shield against the effects of climate change. This simple model from Dutch research institute Deltares makes it super easy to understand how mangroves can protect the coast from the impact of waves from a heavy storm. The European Parliament passed a nature restoration law that aims to restore 20% of the EU's land and sea by 2030. This plan includes things like restoring 25,000 kilometres of rivers to free-flowing conditions to help reconnect habitats, and planting over 3 billion trees across Europe to recover degraded and deforested land. And protecting our natural world isn't just important as it basically allows us to live, but we're also discovering new things about it all the time. For example, in March, scientists discovered almost 100 new deep-sea species living up to 14,000 feet under the sea in the underwater mountains of Chile. Moving from the deep sea to space, a new satellite was announced in March that is dedicated to tracking methane emissions and their sources worldwide, and could play a role in holding big polluters to account, as air pollution often flies under the radar and is a major health problem. There was some good news in the air though, as air quality in Europe has significantly improved. According to studies that analyse air pollution across Europe from 2003 to 2019, it showed significant declines in harmful particles and nitrogen dioxide levels, especially in urban and central regions. If you're enjoying this video so far, give that like button a tap, and if you're feeling extra generous, throw a random comment down below to help boost the good news in the algorithm. Now on to April. In April, Greece became the first country in Europe to ban bottom trawling in all its marine protected areas by 2030, and Sweden joined them a couple of months later. This is where big heavy fishing nets are dragged across the ocean floor, destroying habitats and releasing carbon that's stored in the ocean. And in another win for the ocean, a landmark treaty was signed by indigenous leaders from Aotearoa, Cook Islands, Tonga, Tahiti, Hawaii and Rapa Nui that gives whales legal personhood in the region. This means that whales will be recognised as a legal entity with rights such as having freedom of movement, freedom to a healthy ocean, and even freedom to express their own culture, including their language. Pre-loved clothing, like this actually, €8 from Paris, continue to take off around the world. And in the US, the second-hand clothing market grew 7 times faster than the brand new clothing market, and the global demand for second-hand clothes is expected to double in the next 3 years. The United States undertook a monumental $20 billion initiative to restore Florida's Everglades, one of the largest environmental restoration projects in history. And another landmark moment that made history in April with these lovely ladies. They're called Senior Women for Climate Protection, and they took the Swiss government to court, claiming they were not doing enough to address climate change, which is putting them at risk of dying during heat waves, which due to their age and gender they are especially impacted by, and this was a violation of their human rights. And on that note, here's my friend Elena's favourite good news story of 2024.
It's Elena here. My favorite story of this year is that the number of lawsuits filed against the fossil fuel industry has tripled since the signing of the Paris Agreement in 2016.
And more people joined the fight against polluting fossil fuel companies, as Cambridge University became the first university in the UK to reject donations from fossil fuel groups, following pressure from students and staff. And since then, over 75% of UK universities have now pledged to ditch fossil fuel investments. And Uruguay showed us that a future is possible without burning fossil fuels, as it ran on 100% renewables for 10 months straight, generating all of its electricity from hydro, wind, bioenergy and solar. And this was on top of news in April that 7 countries now generate over 99% of their electricity from renewable sources, and wind power even overtook fossil fuels in generating electricity in the UK. Let's start May in Texas, where a new campaign called Lights Out Texas encouraged people to turn off their lights at night to help billions of birds migrate safely through the state. By simply making sure that lights are turned off at night during the spring and autumn migratory seasons, we can reduce the confusion caused during the birds' nighttime adventures and ease their long journeys across the globe. Small steps like this show just how impactful conservation can be, and in fact, a study in the same month which examined the success and impact of conservation projects over the last 150 years has found that conservation projects are almost always successful, and we're even getting better at looking after nature too. For this next story, I'm going to pass the mic over so we can hear about some wins from the global south.
Hola Sam, soy Plinio Pizango del pueblo Campupillawi y responsable de transferencia de tecnología para Rainforest Foundation US. Quiero compartir contigo buenas noticias desde la Amazonía peruana, el segundo territorio más grande del mundo después de Brasil. En mayo, apoyamos a 20 comunidades indígenas para que tengan sus títulos, cubriendo un área total 3 veces del tamaño de Manhattan.
In May, I also came across Moses West, who designed a machine that creates clean drinking water from thin air that he gives away to people who need it for free. This process is called atmospheric water generation, and Moses is using it to make sure that everyone has access to clean water, no matter where they live, how old they are, or how much money they have. I actually did an interview with Moses that I posted over on my Patreon, which goes way more into his innovations, so if you're interested in learning more, go check that out. One of the things that makes it feel hopeful for the future is seeing the next generations come through with revolutionary ideas, and that's exactly how June kicked off. As two teenagers won $50,000 for inventing a device that can filter microplastics from water. 17-year-olds Victoria O and Justin Huang from Texas developed a device that uses ultrasonic sound waves to filter microplastics from water, winning them $50,000 at the Regeneron International Science and Engineering Fair that will help them develop the idea further. At the same event, 18-year-old Maddox Springer from Hawaii won a $10,000 prize after researching why green sea turtles were getting tumours. He found that the tumours could be linked to the turtles eating invasive algae that absorbs sewage from local cesspools, and is now using his prize fund to study the issue more at college. In other wildlife news, one of the world's rarest cats, the Iberian lynx, was no longer classed as endangered, and beavers were back in London for the first time in 400 years. One of the biggest breakthroughs in June happened at the University of Cambridge, where researchers found a path to make cement using no emissions. If cement was a country, it would be the third biggest source of emissions after China and the US, so this could help solve one of the world's biggest climate challenges. This new method recycles old concrete by using an electrochemical process to extract calcium, which can then be used to make new concrete. And I came across a couple of other innovations this year helping to solve cement's massive environmental impact, such as this building here, which is made using hempcrete, which is a concrete alternative made by simply mixing hemp, water and lime binder, and it's fire, pest and mold resistant too. And also sugarcrete, which as you can probably guess is a concrete alternative made from sugarcane waste. For the first story of July, I'm going to let my pal Megan tell you her favourite good news story.
In 2024, the Flow Country, which is located in the north of Scotland, was relisted as a UNESCO site. Some excellent news because it's listed with the protections alongside the Great Barrier Reef and the Rocky Mountains. More funding, more security. And the Flow Country is the biggest blanket bog anywhere in the world. It's so important for storing carbon and supporting wildlife. It's an amazing habitat, like a big bouncy trampoline. Of course, it's all waterlogged, peat forms over thousands of years, holding in carbon, and it's an increasingly rare habitat. So having this new protection could mean a lot more security in the future.
And talking of unique ecosystems, in Chicago, urban rivers have created a 1 mile long floating eco park called the Wild Mile that acts like a wetland where loads of plants and animals can thrive. The floating plants send their roots down into the water, which helps detoxify the river by absorbing harmful pollution and breaking it down into less harmful substances. In other news in July, wild horses returned to the plains of Kazakhstan after a 2-century absence thanks to the Altan Dala Conservation Initiative, and a former animal testing lab in Oklahoma was transformed into an animal sanctuary called Freedom Fields, meaning over 200 animals now have a safe home. California made a huge leap towards clean energy with a new geothermal power plant that could power 350,000 homes. The company behind this, Fervo Energy, adapted techniques from the oil and gas industry to harness underground heat more effectively, and their new power plant, Cape Station in Utah, is set to be fully operational by 2028. And finally, in July, Indian Railways have now achieved over 90% electrification across the country. In just 5 years, they've electrified 45% of their rail network. What's more, this transformation is happening 9 times faster than it was a decade ago. Moving into August, and possibly one of the cutest stories of the year, is that dogs with backpacks are being used to restore nature by releasing seeds as our 4-legged friends explore. It's been trialled by the Railway Land Wildlife Trust in a nature reserve in Sussex, England. Seeds fall out of little holes in the backpack as dogs explore the park, aiming to imitate the way wolves or bison might have helped spread these in the past. In time, these seeds can then grow into plants and trees. 60 Siamese crocodiles hatched in Cambodia's Cardamom National Park, the largest record of this critically endangered species breeding in the wild this century. In addition to this, a First Nation in Canada opened the first Indigenous-led blue park, where they'll demonstrate a different type of conservation where humans are seen as part of nature. And in a possible turning point, China approved significantly fewer coal plants in the first half of 2024, which is a great segue for me to introduce my next friend, Hannah Ritchie from Our World in Data, so she can tell you her favourite story.
Hi Sam, it's Hannah Ritchie here. My good news story of 2024 is the rapid rollout of clean energy in China. So China already smashed global records for solar in 2023 and is set to smash that record again by almost a third in 2024. Now what this means is that China is set to beat its solar and wind targets 6 years ahead of schedule. The other big story in China this year has been the rapid rollout of electric vehicles. So this year, nearly half of new cars sold in China will be electric, and that's a massive increase in just 4 years. So in 2020, that share was just 6%, so it's gone from 6% to nearly 50% in just 4 years. Now that's a good news story because the sales of gasoline cars in China are now falling very quickly, and this rollout of electric vehicles is really starting to make a dent on its demand for road gasoline.
And lastly, in August, I learned about depaving, which is a growing movement across the world to strip out concrete to let plants and soil thrive instead. This is especially useful in hot months like August when temperatures rise, as whilst concrete absorbs and radiates heat, making our cities incredibly hot, plants can cool down our streets, provide shade, and create wildlife habitats too. September came around and showed us that nature holds a lot of solutions to improving our health, but sometimes in the not so obvious places. As researchers from a team led by the University of Utah, working with the University of Copenhagen, discovered that cone snail venom could be used to treat diabetes in humans. The venom helps cone snails paralyze their prey by attacking their blood sugar regulation, effectively paralysing them using a hormone called consomatin. But it may have properties that could lower blood sugar in humans too. And a new medical trial found that prescribing time in nature through things like wild swimming and nature walks is more effective and cost efficient than traditional treatments to depression, whilst boosting happiness too. And sometimes prescribing nature helps, but sometimes prescribing time with dogs helps too. Like at the Southern New Mexico Correctional Facility, where inmates are helping hard to adopt dogs find new homes by training them in basic obedience and socialisation. The programme by Deming Animal Guardians not only transforms the lives of dogs, with nearly all graduates finding loving homes after the programme, but it also helps inmates develop compassion, responsibility, and valuable new skills. September also brought news that the ozone layer is still well on track for full recovery, and in a landmark agreement, farmers and green groups in the EU united on a vision for sustainable farming. In September, I also came across Shikha Shah, an entrepreneur from India, who's paying farmers for their agricultural waste and then turning that waste into eco-friendly fabric. This waste that would normally be burnt and emit toxic emissions is now living a second life as natural fibres and yarns. We're down to the final 3 months, so I'm going to whiz through October and November and then share with you some brand new stories that happened this month in December, or last month depending on which month you're watching this in. In October, our friends down under in Australia announced a massive environmental initiative to protect 52% of its ocean territory more than any other country, by expanding marine sanctuaries, which include critical breeding grounds for penguins and other bird species. Whilst we're talking of Australia, Australian company Mobile Crisis Construction is helping rebuild Ukraine by turning war rubble into recycled bricks. Using mobile block factories, MCC crushes debris and presses it into bricks that meet earthquake and cyclone resistant standards. These mobile factories are quick to deploy and can produce enough bricks in just 1 week to build 1 school or medical centre, 3 large houses, or 10 small joined houses. And to make it 3 out of 3 for Australia, scientists discovered heat-tolerant corals in the Great Barrier Reef, offering hope for its survival as ocean temperatures rise. By selectively breeding the most resilient corals, scientists hope to create reefs that are better equipped to handle warmer waters, and selective breeding trials are already underway. Now on to news that isn't related to coral or Australia, as much as we love our Aussie friends. In October, the UK ended its 142-year reliance on coal power, marking a major milestone in its transition away from fossil fuels. And Assam in India saw an incredible increase in the population of one-horned rhinos, growing from just 600 in the 1960s to over 3,000 in 2024. Now November was my birthday month, so I just want to take a quick opportunity to say thank you so much for all the lovely birthday comments last month, and also just a general thank you for being here and for supporting these videos over the last year. I made a commitment at the start of 2024 to do these monthly roundups, and they were so much work, like a hideous amount of work really, but I couldn't have done it without all your wonderful support, all the comments, the views, the likes, everything. It just all means so much to me, and I just want to thank you so much. I want to reach 100,000 subscribers in 2025, so if you can help me get one step closer to that by either subscribing or sharing this video with a friend who you think might enjoy it, that would be so much appreciated. Now let's fire through some good news in November. A scientist from UC Berkeley developed a new powder that can absorb as much carbon dioxide as a tree with only half a pound of the material, while researchers in France found a way to use super-powered bubbles to tackle forever chemicals. They joined scientists in Japan who were also on a mission to fight PFAS, who developed a new method for breaking down forever chemicals in just 8 hours. Deforestation in Brazil's Amazon dropped by 30.6% compared to the previous year, the lowest level of destruction in 9 years. And Boston Medical Center opened a new 5,000 square foot rooftop garden that will not only provide hospital patients with fresh and healthy produce and help their recovery, but also help address food insecurity across Boston too, by donating the food to local non-profits each week. And to end our November, we're going to hear some positive news from Sabrina from Global Goals.
Hi Sam, Sabrina here from Global Goals. This November, something truly incredible happened. The first ever Global Ministerial Conference on Ending Violence Against Children took place in Colombia. Every year, 1 billion children, half of the world's young people, are victims of violence. But over 100 governments stepped up to make the global commitment of ending violence against children a reality. And here's what progress looked like. In 8 countries, 138 million children are now protected by corporal punishment bans. In Tanzania, they're introducing child protection desks in all 25,000 schools. In the Solomon Islands, they're increasing the legal age of marriage from 15 to 18, a critical step in ending child marriage. In the Philippines, they're spending 3% of their national budget on ending violence against children. And the work doesn't stop there. Leaders from Kenya, Nigeria, Benin and Uganda are working on a historic UN resolution of ending corporal punishment worldwide. This is what real progress looks like. Thanks for spreading the word, Sam, and here's to more change ahead.
We're in the final month of the year. We made it. This has been so much work, but I hope you're feeling a bit better about the state of the world now. And a huge shout out to my Patreon community for helping me make these videos too. And if you want to help me make more of these videos in 2025 and get a credit in them too, just type this URL in and join the club by giving however much works for you each month. Now for some good news from December, and we're starting with some scientific breakthroughs. Japanese researchers at the Riken Center for Emergent Matter Science have developed a revolutionary biodegradable plastic that dissolves in seawater and doesn't generate microplastics. It's just as strong as conventional plastic, meaning it can be used for a wide variety of things, but as it breaks down in saline environments like seawater, it could be a game changer in stopping marine pollution. And talking of seawater, scientists from the University of South Australia made a huge breakthrough in extracting fresh water from seawater, which could help billions of people get better access to clean water. This advancement, hailed as a significant breakthrough in desalination technology, could be seamlessly integrated into existing desalination systems, offering a sustainable solution to address global freshwater scarcity. And for our last sea-related story, Norway halted plans for deep-sea mining in a historic victory for nature, helping protect these pristine ecosystems from exploitation. And I want to end on a story that's close to my heart, as I absolutely love bees. A Scottish rewilding project transformed 90 acres of monocrop fields into meadows full of wildflowers, boosting the bumblebee population from just 35 in 2021 to over 4,000 now. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching and have a great 2025. I'll be here for you every month, reminding you that even amongst the doom and gloom, good is out there in the world and it's worth fighting for. As Samwise Gamgee once said. I'll see you soon, my friend. Bye.